Hello, guys and girls and everybody. Welcome back to another video. If you're not new, and welcome if you're new. I'm painting, and I'll try to promise that I don't stand in front of the camera or the canvas the whole time, but you know, that's life, I guess. I already started this painting. I got it from a thrift store. It was one of those cheap um IKEA display canvases, I think. I don't know if it's from IKEA, but you know what I'm talking about. So it's not high quality canvas. There's a lot of plastic in it, but it was really cheap, and it's double like filled. It's thick, which that doesn't change anything really, but just to tell you guys, I guess. But I started with the black background, and then I did a red sketching of a face, but I didn't like it, and I'm really happy now that I didn't just do the first thing I thought about, because that would have sucked compared to this one. I really like this painting, and I'm happy that I started with a sketch, which I'm gonna be doing more. I think more of starting with the small sketch of just filling out places and making layers, and the stuff I usually do. One thing I also usually do is I have to ask you guys to like and subscribe. We're getting super close to 1,000 subscribers. So if you've watched this far, which I hope you have, please just subscribe and like. Throw me a comment, especially since I'm doing a Q&A as a 1,000 subscriber special. So if you have any questions, large or small, please just write them in the comments, and I'll answer them in the Q&A video. Yeah. Yeah. Right. So I wanted to make this person a little less, teeth and scary and whatever. Not that it isn't scary or kind of dark. It's still very much me, and you can still very clearly tell it's one of my paintings, which I think is nice. But I just wanted to do something, whatever I felt like, really, which I think is the most important, thing in art. Doing what you want to, not what you think people will buy or what you think people will like or whatever anybody tells you to do. It's about doing what you want to do. And this time I wanted to do the painting like this. I may want to do something completely different in about, a week or a month or whatever. Or I may do the exact same thing every time. But yeah. Yeah, I really like starting with a sketch, actually, and I think I will do this more, to be honest. Um, Especially in the paintings, because I can paint over them super easy. So it's not a problem of, oh, what if I put this line here on the paper and it's just it's there forever. It's kind of more freeing, which is one of the things I love about painting, which I like drawing. I really like drawing. I've been drawing for a very long time, and I still continue to draw almost every day. But painting definitely has my heart, or whatever you want to say. I don't feel that I'm a better painter than I'm a drawer. I think it's kind of even, since it's different materials and it's different ways of working with it. But I do think that the ability of painting over and making gradients and, you know, contrast and all these things, and just being able to do stuff again, not like an undo button like on a computer, but kind of just the ability to take a thing, paint it over, start again. Oh, it's bad, paint it over, and again, again. That really, I really like that. So it still changes every time you do something. There's never an undo, but there's, you can kind of just try again. But still, every time you try, something changes in the piece forever. At least in my opinion, it does. Yeah, and I didn't want to do any hair. I did a little bit of hair, I guess. There's these like marks on the side of the head and kind of like on the top of it. So it's kind of like hair, but not that much. But I still a little bit about kind of hair. But I did these weird spikes or geometric shapes on the head, which I was like, I thought they were cool and kind of alien-like, which I thought was really nice. Yeah, and then I go in with the dark, with black. And when people say, "Oh, you should never shade with black," or this and that, yeah, that may work for your art style, but me personally, first of all, I don't care what you do. That's your choice. Even if I don't like what another artist is doing and I think it looks bad, I'm not gonna be here like, "Oh, you should never do this." No, that's if they don't ask me for constructive criticism or my opinion about something, don't tell it to them, because you aren't entitled, especially like if you're not an artist or an art critic, So yeah, but start with that, doing some cool lines, and of course, as you've seen, I have other stuff planned, but I just continue to build up the piece in small little levels, just adding paint there, and then there, and then a little bit on top of that, and then so my routine is kind of similar, but it's the way I like to paint, and it allows me to create the pieces I want to create. And I really love the layered texture, but also just the layered feel. It makes the pieces feel more alive, to me at least, that you can see some of the thing that was under it, or some of what it was before. I like that you're able to see like, oh, there's a little bit of the sketch going through here, but they don't know that. The people looking at your art, they don't know how it's supposed to look. And if you don't like the hand on one of your paintings, or whatever it may be, but they don't know that you want it to be different unless you tell them. They may love it and think it's perfect. They may also hate it and think it's stupid, but they never know what you wanted it to be exactly, other than what you've made. It's like in school, if you have a presentation to do, people, they aren't waiting for slides on your presentation that they didn't know you wanted to make. If you get my point. I think it's the same in art, or at least close to. If that makes any sense at all. If it doesn't, too bad, I guess. Yeah. And my signature, making the nose red. I like that. If it has a nose, of course. But you can also definitely see the difference in really concentrated red compared to the background red, which is more like loose and splotchy, if that makes sense, compared to the really bright, almost like a can of Coke. The Coca-Cola is like that type of red. And also on the lips, not because I want the lips to be very light and glowing, but I just want to have a kind of a red undertone, like people's lips usually have, or some people's lips, at least mine, are kind of red, not red, but like, as a very pale white man, there's definitely parts where my skin is redder than most, just because it's so pale. But yeah, and this time I did this Mauve purple, pinkish purple as the skin color, which I'll definitely do again, because it's great. It has the right amount of color and just feel, not to be overpowering to all the other stuff in the painting, but it's still light, and you can make it darker, you can make it lighter, and it's just, I like it. It looks good with the other colors, with the black, with the Titan buff, with the red. It looks nice with it. And I start here with a very simple, very flat layer. Not that this is the last, and I think that's the thing, like with my paintings at least, I start with a lot of flat layers and then I just build up upon them. I build up the shadows, the highlights, and sometimes I even do just, you know, minute differences, but it's never done in the first try. Well, the first try, but it's never done like the first application of the paint. It's not like, how it's finished, I guess. But yeah, it took a lot of time, but I wanted to do this right. Since I had the sketch to go off from, instead of just going in blind, I had to be a little bit more concentrated when it came to filling in the color of the skin of the character, because I didn't want to go over stuff I wanted to keep. The very light beige color. But yeah, just filling in the face, I guess. And I was like, oh, is this character having a shirt on? But I'm like, no, I don't really like that. Which I know sounds weird, but again, it doesn't, I guess. But I think it would be too much of a hassle to have to make a shirt. And it's kind of be like, it would be weird in a cool way, definitely, to make a painting where a character is definitely just wearing a totally normal white t-shirt. Would be really cool, actually. That would be pretty weird in a cool way. But yeah, you get my point, I guess. Like, you can barely see it, and I also wanted a lot of texture and weird things here around the shoulders. So I was like, yeah, I'm not gonna give this guy a shirt. Yeah. Maybe you can hear the wind blowing through the trees. So now I have my window open because it's hot as hell in here. Like, it's really hot for some reason. And I was at work earlier today. I had not the early morning shift, but just later in the 10 a.m. to whatever. But it wasn't that hot then. It was all right. It wasn't a great shift. It was just, it's all right. But I definitely do feel, though, that I don't really experience the weather until I'm like out of work, which makes sense because I'm inside all the time. But especially because the climate in the kitchen is so warm because of the dishwasher and the huge ovens and whatever else is in use. But it's all right. I was also debating today if I should make a drawing instead of posting the painting video, but then I was like, you know what, it doesn't really matter, because it's not like there's a sacred time where the painting video has to come out. It's like, oh yeah, it has to come out on the 10th of August first or whatever, because it's it's just another piece of art. It's a more intensive piece of art, and some would say nicer. I don't really know. I like my paintings a bit more, to be honest, but that's because it's different types of art compared to the drawings. But yeah, you get my point. But then I was like, no, I don't really have to be selective about the paintings or drawings, because yes, I release more drawing videos than I do painting videos, but that's only because I'm drawing more than I'm painting, but the paintings also take longer time. If it's a very small painting, I can probably do it in around 2 days, 1 to 2 days, it depends. And it could have been done with this quicker, but I've also realized most of the time I work too quickly. And not in the sense that when I'm sure of what I want to do, I work too quickly. That's really great. But when I'm unsure of what I want to do, I still try to do something, which sometimes has caused me to kind of ruin a painting because I worked on it too quickly without thinking about what I actually wanted to do with it, compared to the drawings, which I've definitely done the same, but I've also put drawings aside and gone back to them, mostly if they're like A3 paper, the bigger drawings. If it's in the sketchbook, it's kind of different. I still try and make the drawings there good, don't get me wrong, but it's a little bit different compared to the A3 paper. And the paintings, of course. Yeah. You're really beginning to see the full character here, and how it's turning out. And there's a lot of considerations. As most of the time when I'm making a painting, I am thinking about, okay, what to do, but I'm also thinking about what to do when I'm not painting, when I'm at work or just chilling at home. Sometimes also let the painting dry. I think that's one thing that's important. Even though acrylics dry quickly, if you like doing a lot of separate layers like I do, letting the paint dry is really important. And that's one of the reasons I don't use oil paint. Oil paint is great. It has lovely texture, fantastic colors, and it's just, it's more traditional, I guess. But for me, I paint too quickly. I want it to dry faster, but oil does just, doesn't really want to dry at all, nearly. So it doesn't work for me. And one of the paintings I made while I was still using oil, it just became this gray little blob. And the worst thing about it, the more oil you add, the more textured it gets, which is cool to a degree, but you can't paint over oil paint. And now that I want to paint over my own paintings, I rarely do that. But it's mostly about it also becomes harder to paint as it has more texture. I've made some videos on some old oil paintings I bought really cheaply at a thrift store once. You can find them if you care after this video. But it was nearly impossible to paint over well because the texture was just catching the brush and the paint, and it was just a nightmare, really. And here I'm going with a spartle, or the knife, palette knife. I know what it's called in Danish, which is a spartle, spatel, but still, like, the palette knife or whatever. That's also one of my favorite tools to get these almost random, non-random lines, especially when I'm trying to darken up a space, because you can drag a little bit of paint so you can still very clearly see the color under it, the mauve purple here, but you can also cover stuff in cool ways. It just fits my style, I guess. If that makes sense. At least for me it does. But yeah. So I'm getting into the more messy part, where it's like, here's where I enjoy the randomness, and there's a lot of randomness in my art, which I like. Like, I like the fact that I'm in control mostly, but there's also a part of this which is out of my control, which is where I can try to guide it, and hopefully through all the experience I have, it will do what I think it will do, but it still has the ability to completely destroy itself. That's just a part of it. But that's just how it has to be with art. I think if you're not risking anything, you're not learning. But I don't know, though. That may not be true. There's also something nice about painting and drawing stuff and like. I do that very much, to be honest. Like, as you can probably see, of course, there's a bunch of it that's just, that's my style. That's a huge part of being an artist, having your own signature style, I guess. But it's also a lot because artists are sometimes really good at getting in the comfort zone of, oh, I like this, and I know how to draw this and paint this, so, and I know people like it, so I'll do it again, and again, and again, and again, and again, 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 which I'm definitely guilty of, to be honest. I am, I mostly paint portraits or draw portraits. I like the face. I think it captures a lot. But sometimes, of course, if I wanted to do something specific, I would paint. Not paint, I would draw a sketch of it first to try and get the fundamentals down in pencil. I haven't done that in a long time, or at least like a couple of months, I guess. But I want to do, more full body and weird creatures and people sitting down on a lawn chair, or whatever, something like that. Could be pretty cool. And here I'm adding in more red, because red's my favorite color, but it's also just nice. Yeah, things are really starting to get close to the end here, and I really struggled with the eyes, to be honest. I did some yellow on it, but that kind of sucked, and this was a little bit too dark in my opinion, and it didn't do what I wanted it to do. So the eyes, as you've seen from the thumbnail, are different than these, but that's also a thing. I tried like I tried four different eyes, at least, maybe five, depends on how you count it, but at least 4 different types of eyes I tried on this painting just to be sure. And sometimes, even if I find the right ones, kind of early on, I might as well try some other stuff that I'm thinking of just to be sure. But yeah, at least that's, my opinion. You really see, oh, I spilled on my shirt because I'm, a man child. I can't remember what it was. It was probably, it's not paint. I think this is water, or I don't know, but I just had to point that out, so now you guys see it too. Yeah, if anybody's watching this far, I guess they're seeing it too. But yeah, also the outline is one thing that I really love. Not even like, it takes a little bit of the reality away from it, but I think it adds very much to the contrast. And if you've watched my last video or just know me in general, contrast is king in art, in my opinion. So yeah, I really like that. I also pimped up that, and a little bit there, and just a little more there, and here, and there. But I really like the palette I've made for myself. I think I can achieve most things I want to with my art, and it has kind of this cohesive nature to it, because I'm painting with nearly the same colors every time, of course in different schemes and different ways, but yeah. I also think a limited palette is very good for an artist, but that's maybe just because I like it, I don't know. Right, so the reveal will be here of the finished product. Okay, you did it, or I guess you watched all the way to the end. So this is the finished picture. I haven't named it. Maybe I will, maybe I won't. But yeah, I didn't record most of the last stuff, like the eyes. I changed those completely, but I'm very happy about. He looks kind of like an alien in a good way, but still human. Earring here, and I put more emphasis on this, and a little bit more there and here and there and all this stuff. I did a few things, but I like it. I think it's really good, and I think it's awesome. I'm just gonna take you, as you can see it, a little bit closer here. I really love the background being red, but not completely red. Like, it's kind of, you can see there, it's black and kind of brownish. It fits really well. I like the Titan buff beige here around the head, and of course the body has some sort of weird outline. Just love it. And I think using the Mauve, like this very light purple, as a skin color is definitely something I'm gonna do more, or at least, use it in some sort of way. It's pretty great stuff. I like it at least. But I don't know about you guys. But if you do like it, you could write in the comments or like the video and all, a whole bunch of stuff. Yeah. But this is a really cool painting. It's great, especially for cameras, which I got in a thrift store, which was super cheap. So, yeah. I don't know. But one more thing. The very last thing. I want to say thank you for watching. Please like, subscribe, comment, all that stuff. Because it means the world to me. And I really hope you enjoyed the video. Bye.